you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from theChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are latest things that makes official. Welcome to 16 years, going on 17 of the Chris Voss Show. 2,500 episodes, people. You ever sitting around and you're like, God, I wish I had something to do today. There's like hours of knowledge and details and stories and things that will change and improve the quality of your life. The more you know, the more you learn, the more you educate yourself, the better you can do life, eh? Do the life program, eh? Anyway, we're going to be talking with a wonderful young man today. But in the meantime, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, all those crazy places there. Today we have Peter H. Thomas on the show with us. We'll be talking about his first book, or one of his early books, called Be Great, The 5 Foundations of Extraordinary Life in Business and Beyond, out October 9th, 2009. We'll talk about some of the other work he does as well. So we'll get into it with him. He is the 1-Minute Mentor, a renowned entrepreneur, author, and philanthropist. He founded Century 21 Real Estate Canada, growing it to a $9 billion sales, and developed the Four Seasons Resort in Scottsdale. Have I been there? Scottsdale's so beautiful. Champion of values-based leadership. He created LifePilot and the Todd Thomas Institute. And as chairman emeritus of the Entrepreneurs Organization, he continues to inspire through his mentorships and books like Be Great and Never Fight with a Pig. That sounds like politics, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. Welcome to the show, Peter. How are you, sir?
Good. Fine. Thank you, Chris. Nice to be here.
Pleasure to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to know you better on the internets?
My website, thomaspride.com.
Mm-hmm.
THOMAS pride, one word.com.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in this book of yours?
I've written 4 or 5 books, but that's my book I'm most proud of, Be Great, because really what it was, I developed a program called LifePilot. I went through a tragedy some 20 years ago. I lost my son. And I, as a result of grief and various other things, and the way Todd lived his life, I developed a program called LifePilot, which really is a program to teach people to understand what their values are and then live their life in alignment with those values. And I found that over the years, I belong to an organization called YPO, Young Presidents Organization. And as you travel all over the world and you meet people, you see lots of people who are successful, and this is every organization, but who are very, very successful, but they lose track of why they're alive, why they're living, the different roles. And sometimes business or some other thing will take them focusing on all other things, maybe other than the important things, And so by developing what your values are individually, you can understand where you should be spending your time and your priorities.
And so tell us a little bit about your life. You have quite the background and stuff. And do you still live in Canada or do you live in Scottsdale?
Yeah, it's sort of we live in 3 places. We live in Canada, we live in Scottsdale, and we live in Mexico. We got a place in Puerto Vallarta.
You just keep bases in the North Continent there.
Yeah, yes. Which we enjoy. That West Coast, up and down the West Coast.
Well, that's the
travel
way to
with
move.
the weather.
It was funny. When we have Canadian folks on the show, I always will pick up the boot or the A's.
Yeah.
And when we were teenagers in high school, we must have watched Bob and Doug McKenzie, that movie, like about 50,000 times. So we'd walk around saying A. So usually I pull all the A's out, and it was funny pre-show.
Mike Myers was doing that too, I think.
Yeah. It's like they try and hide some of my Canadian friends will try and hide the A's, and I'll start dragging it out of them.
Yeah, you come around and see me, eh?
I love it. And Canadians are the best people too. I mean, they're I don't know how you guys put up with living next door to us. We're like you guys like the polite brother, and we're like the drunken idiot brother who's always like, let's start a war. And you guys
I explain it more like it's living beside an elephant.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, and when the elephant, just stretches, they doesn't realize what that causes the areas close to it.
Or when it takes a giant dump.
Yeah, well, that's any facility that it does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's us, man. America.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know.
But just getting back on Be Great, on that book, Be Great. So what it does is I travel all over the world really teaching this 4-hour seminar of values. And really you sit down, Chris, and if I was doing it with you, I'd say, Chris, what are your values? And you might say, well, what do you mean, what values? Well, for example, my values are health, freedom, happiness, integrity, and legacy. And I know that, So since health is one of my values, if you said, Peter, let's just you out and go get drunk tonight together, I might say, well, I'll come with you, Chris, but I might not get drunk because that wouldn't be one of my values, So you don't pour your values on other people, but you're very, very serious about what you stand for as an individual. And so teaching people to once I liken it a lot, like if you're flying a helicopter and the weather closes in on you, and well, as long as you can fly by your signals, you look down at your signals, they tell you how high you are, whether there's anything around you, which way you're wobbling, are you full of gas, are you empty? They tell you everything you need to know. Your values are the same way. A lot of times we get into business or we get into our teeth into something, and it takes a hold of us and takes us different ways than we planned on going.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've experienced that a few times in life. Yeah. And when you were motivated to write this book, what was the proponent behind it? What made you want to do that?
At the time I was suffering from grief. It was an antidote. Todd was a very special young man. He was very, very caring, very loving, and very caring about people. And it sort of was inspired by Todd's life. And I feel that Todd's my chairman on this project. So I can relate with him. I can still enjoy conversations and thinking. I really do get a lot of personal benefit by doing this in collaboration with my son.
That's awesome. What a great memorial and homage to him.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of led into this, but I segued into Canadian stuff and got a little lost. So tell us about your life. You built some interesting things. You built the Century 21. I think that's a big brand here also in America. Real estate, if I'm thinking the same brand. But you built that in Canada. How did you get involved? What was some of your upbringing as an entrepreneur and influence that got you into those spaces?
Well, Chris, I left home when I was 16, joined the Canadian Army.
Really?
Yeah, and the Army then offered you 2 years of school. You could, if you signed up for 5 years, they would give you 2 years of school. So I happen to have grade 10, so I got grade 11 and grade 12 in the Army. They called it senior matriculation. So they gave me senior matric, and then you're on your own. So I took those 2 years of school. Then you give them 3 years back to pay for the 2 years they just gave you. Oh. So that's 5 years. But then they give you an option to go for 2 more. And I was crazy. I took the 2-year option as well.
Sure. Yeah.
I loved the Army. I loved, I was, think of it, 16 to 21, 22, I saw the world, I got grew up to be a man learning from other men, And I really feel that all my lessons of life were really right there in those first 2 years that I was in the Army.
There's a lot of discipline that you get taught in there where regimented discipline that, it seems a little bit overburdensome at the time, but, some of the best leaders come out of the military. I mean, they form the best leaders, and discipline's important.
I look back at it's interesting. The discipline was one thing, but, Chris, getting thrown in a hut, we used to call them huts, but, they were barracks, but getting thrown in a hut with 30 strangers who all come from pretty sketchy backgrounds. There was no scholars in there. They were kids, 16 years old, some big, some little, some drunk already, all these different habits. And you had to sort of maneuver your life through that.
Yeah.
Those are the lessons.
Yeah.
The bullies, how to handle bullies, all that stuff.
Yeah, you kind of learn from that. My parents, we moved around a few times when we were young, and you would have to go to a new school and adapt, and there'd be different cultures of people that you have to adapt to, and then you had to learn to try and fit in or get along. And
Exactly.
people are like, hey, there's a new guy, and you're like, oh, great.
Fresh meat
fresh meat for the bullies. There he's arrived.
Yeah,
So
and you learn pretty quick where you should step out and maybe stand up for yourself or let it go.
Yeah, or let it go. So it's a great foundational. So was your childhood unstable, fraught? What motivated you to leave at 16?
Yeah, it was. Well, I lost my dad right at the beginning of the war.
Okay.
At the end in England, and at the end of the war, Mom remarried a Canadian soldier. So that was like about 5 years later, and she married a Canadian soldier and brought me to Canada with her. So I came over to Canada, in northern Alberta, and then stayed there till I was I was ready to leave. Like I was always restless and always excited about tomorrow. Always excited about tomorrow. And so I saw the ad in the paper, and I said, Mom, this is what I want to do, and if you don't sign on and let me go, I'll probably leave on my own. One of those. So Mom was glad to. That was history. I signed on. Then I finished my 7 years in the Army. I got out, and I came to Calgary, Alberta, which is above Montana, and decided and looked for a job, and answered a job as a salesman for a securities company, and they were specializing in mutual funds. So they taught me kind of how to sell. And because I didn't know any of that skill sets. And so I learned how to sell mutual funds. I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
And rose up got to the leading guy in that company, and had a great time. The biggest thing I've had, Chris, is I've had incredible teachers. I just got lucky. I can point to human beings in my life that turned me completely, like, from going this way to going that way.
Wow.
Yeah. And they just seem to show up at the right time.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works sometimes.
Yeah.
What we're sometimes searching for, I think sometimes we do that through, or maybe our subconscious. What we're searching for, makes it easier to identify the things when they come before us. I'm kind of that way. I'll search for things, and I'll kind of start talking to people and polling people or asking people what they think, and I'm trying to define what is kind of something I'm reaching for. And I'll keep reaching, and sometimes like you say, I find the person who has the answer for me, and usually I can identify. I'm like, that's it right there. That's what I've been looking for. And sometimes after talking to people, I'm able to compilate enough of it where I know, okay, I think I've talked to enough people to learn. Yeah, it's interesting how that works, and I can think of. I wrote about in my book, Beacons of Leadership. I can think of. I think there's 2 or 3 stories in the book where someone did something charitably for me when I was young that changed the whole course of my life, teaching me sales, keeping me in sales, teaching me how to close. And these folks, I shudder sometimes just thinking back. Sometimes I'm just like, what if I had never met that person? What if they had never been charitable to me? What if they had never helped me? Where would I be? And I'm just I'm scared to think sometimes.
Oh yeah, you're so true. A quick story, but people helping you when they don't need to. When I was in the Army, I got little jobs outside the Army, helping load moving trucks and things like that. And also I worked. I used to shine other people's shoes, press their uniforms, charge them money, and to make. So I always seemed to have cash flow. It was always good cash flow. So now I'm sort of 17, and I think, well, I'm about 17. I should buy a car. I want to get a car. So I went down to the car dealership that was in this town, and walked in and said, I'd like to buy one. And so he showed me this it's called an Austin A40, a baby Austin car. So how much? $300. Okay, yeah. So I sign up for it. He's going to sell me the car, I sign, and I said, well, I'll make an assignment on my paycheck from the Army. He said, what? He said, what? From what? I said, from the Army. Oh, and he literally ripped up the page. A contract, and said, we don't sell soldiers. You can't. We can't deal with you. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Threw me out. So I go back to the camp, and I was sitting on my bed, sitting pretty morose and kind of sad,
Yeah.
And the sergeant walks by. "What are you doing here, Thomas? Because it's weekend, I should be not there."
Yeah.
"Well, I said, I got in a car," and the guy wouldn't say, "I'm in the Army," gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. And he said, "What? What?" He said, "Stay here." And like our, sergeants are gods,
Yeah.
when you're my level. So you stand, like literally when you're with the sergeant, you stand like this, Chris. You stand. So he was almost treating me civilly. Anyway, he come up and he said, "Get in the car, like come with me." And I went with him and said, "Get in the car." And his car, I got in his car. We go to the dealership about 15 miles away, and I'm sitting in the car beside him. I never sat that close to a sergeant before,
Wow.
And so I'm sitting like stiff all the way into town.
Yeah,
and I'm not a friend of his. I'm one of 30 guys. That's it. No relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Just stay here." I sit in the car, and he goes in, and I could see him through the window, him leaning in, and the guy leaning back, and then the guy leaning in. They were going like this. And he walks out, and he said, "Go get your car," and just walk. So I get out of the deal. I get out of his car. I go in. The guy had the contract all made out. And so I signed it and took the car. So I paid it off in about sort of 9 months. So, I paid a 3-year contract off in about 9 months. And I get this thing in the mail, Chris. And when I opened it up, it was, "Thank you, bye-bye, paid up contract." And I looked at the back of the contract, and Sergeant Vart had signed for me.
He had signed the contract. He'd been the guarantor, maybe?
Yes, personally.
Wow.
So, I still right now get little bumps on thinking of what he did for me,
Yeah.
And at that age, I think, Chris, that was one of the biggest things he did. Like somebody did me for nothing. He was nothing in for him, and he did for me. And it just made me feel so special.
That's great leadership, too.
Oh, it was everything. It was everything. Yeah. And I've always been looking to give back ever since then, And the main thing about it is you don't want anything for it because it ruins the giving back. If you can understand. And that's why I did the one. That's what I'm doing with the 1 Minute Mentor, because I get no recompense. There's no money for it, but it seems to be popular. People seem to be writing it, But it's a form of me being able to give back and have some purpose.
What a great lesson. I mean, we all should learn from lessons like that.
Yeah.
Lessons of charity, giving back, not having like selfish reasons. There's some people say that there is a selfishness to that, and it's very core. We want to make ourselves feel good. But,
Sure.
That's a great example that you give that how that pays forward. Someone showed you charity and grace, and you go, I'm gonna model that example. And it's too bad we don't model more of that example in our politics, in our world, and how people interact sometimes day to day. I used to go to the Starbucks nearby my house, and every morning when I go, somebody had started a pay it forward thing. So they would be like, your order's paid for. Do you want to pay for the car behind you? And it would just be continue on for, I don't know, all day long. But I mean, it's a great lesson. And, it's a thing where a rising tide lifts all boats. We have to think in terms of abundance instead of scarcity. So how did you get started with the real estate business in Century 21?
Yeah. Well, I got out of the, I did my 7 years, got out of the Army, got that job selling mutual funds, and had a great little lesson there. I worked there for 5 years. I moved up to the top salesman in the company in about 2 years, and then went into management. And I was killing it. I was having a great time. And I realized then, I started learning about taxes and things, and recognizing that you really can't make a bunch of money getting paid a salary, or commission. You need to get equity. You need to own a piece of the deal.
Yeah.
So I go to these guys who I thought, they thought I got all kinds of accolades for what I was doing. So I said to my boss, to Ken Marlin, I said, Mr. Marlin, I'd really like to get some equity in this company. And he said, well, I think that's a good idea. He said, I think it's a great idea. He said, I'll set you up an appointment with the boss, Mr. Cormie, the big man. So he sets it up about 3 weeks or so. It took me to get there. Finally, I get in the big man, and I'm sitting there. And the big man, he owns 97% of the company. And Ken, my boss, owns 3%. That's what they own. And so Ken says to the big man, he said, Mr. Cormie, he said, if you know Peter quite well, you've watched his progress. He's a great guy. He's really good for the company. And he wants to buy some equity in the company. And Cormie doesn't say anything. He looks at him. He says, well, that's good, Ken. He said, why don't you sell him some of yours?
Oh!
And that was it. That was it. He had no desire. He couldn't care less about me. And so lesson number 2, I thought, boy, so I couldn't believe it. So what I said is, I went back to my guy, my boss, and he said, I don't know, Peter, I don't know what happened. I said, well, you know what? You go tell Mr. Cormie that I give him 1 year notice. I'm giving him 1 year's notice right now.
What?
That was 4 years. So I give him 1 year notice.
Mm-hmm.
He never talked to me again about it. My 1 year came and passed, and I left.
Wow. And you did leave then?
Oh, yeah. I left it. I left it the 1 year.
And you held your gun.
And as it turned out, Chris, it was the best thing I ever did, because look what I did afterwards.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
Did they spawn a competitor, basically? Is that what they did?
No. I didn't do anything they did, because I went out and syndicating real estate on my own.
Okay.
First of all, I did do a little mutual fund company, but that wasn't where the money was. The money, then I learned about real estate. I actually do have a little story about it, but I bought a house. The salesman lived next door to our office. Used to know him real well, and he sold me a house. And he said, Peter, you can rent it out, just for. So I said, okay, how much is it? It was $10,000. This is back, 60 years ago. House was $10,000, and I needed $1,000. And I said, well, where? I'm not worried about the 9, but what about the $1,000? Where do I get that from? Because I can borrow 9. So he said, well, I can get you 9. I get you the $1,000. I said, okay, we'll do it. So I borrowed the 10, bought the house, we rented it out, and then he came along again, the salesman, and said, Peter, I can trade that house I just sold you for 10. It was about 10 months later. He said, I can trade it against this apartment block, and I'll give you 18 for the house against the apartment block. Wow. And that was about 50. So I said, okay, done. And then about 3 or 4 months later, he sold the whole deal for about 80. So I made about sort of $40,000. And I said to myself, what am I doing? Like, I'm in my regular job, I'm making like $40,000 a year,
Yeah.
And so I became a real estate guy.
Awesome. What an amazing story.
From that deal.
Yeah. What an amazing story. What a journey, too.
Oh, well, yeah. Incredible journey.
Yeah. So you build this thing into, a juggernaut, a multi-billion-dollar company, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how many years?
We did about $8 billion in sales when I sold the company.
Wow, that is amazing. And so after that, you've just kind of focused on different ventures and giving back. Yeah.
Well, I've been charitable always. I've always having charity. But what I did primarily with my business deals is I just started. I started investing in real estate, and then selling some of it when it was ripe, ready to sell, and then once you get into that market, when you're a buyer, you get all kinds of deals offered to you. Mm-hmm. And the next big one that came along was I was offered this project in San Antonio, Texas, and it was 1,246 acres of land, all service. If you know where the big playground in San Antonio, what's it called?
Austin?
Oh, it's a bit. All the people go there.
Yeah.
It's a water kind of water park, big park.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's huge. I mean, it's crazy. It went on the last resolution trust that took all the bankrupt deals. The government took them all and dumped them into this one trust. Okay. And then they offered the assets in that trust to different people who had money. And so I bid on this asset, and I literally paid $9 million for it, and we sold it for $150 million.
Oh wow!
But I had it. Took 20 years to do that.
Okay.
But it was a lot. Me and some partners. I put some friends and partners together, and we bought that. That was one major transaction.
I'll bet. Well, that's
deal.
A great return too.
Yeah, it was all good. It was all good. So I kept kind of doing deals.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to? Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no. Like deals like hotels and everything.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
Well, first of all, I would tell them to get their values together. Mm-hmm. Understand what you stand for. That's number one in the world. The first thing that a person going into university should start doing is thinking of their values. It's hard when you're in high school. It's hard to, because you're just developing. It's I think it's too premature. But once because you're getting values from your parents and from your friends and uncles and aunts and different people, you're learning about life. But then once you learn about life, and I'll just assume that's somewhere in that 15 to 20, mm-hmm. then in that area, you start thinking about values and what you stand for. Like, for example, I should mind health, freedom, happiness, and integrity, and legacy. So, and the legacy only came in recently. The rest of it, but like health, I've looked after my health all my life. Ran marathons, and health is just part of me. So it's easy to do. It's not difficult.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I thought you wanted to ask, yeah. And so taking your direction from your values, you then look for a career that kind of fits those values. Because to me, there's nothing better than being an entrepreneur. And real estate is one of the most exciting areas of entrepreneurism. There's many exciting areas, but real estate's one of them. And of course, for a guy like me who really has got no education or no college, no university education, you're limited a bit. I didn't realize I was limited, but you're limited a bit. I just happened to hit the right vein of gold, because there's nothing to hold you back at all. When you go into real estate, as hard as you work, and you raise the money, you can do the deals. The qualification is really your success as you move ahead. And so that was a good thing for a guy like me to get started, because the entry level was pretty low.
It's quite the journey that you've done. Let's get into promoting your 1 Minute Mentor series. How does that work, and where can we find it?
Well, I'm on the internet. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all those. And what it is really, I just give people wisdom, an old guy's wisdom, like maintaining.
You're not old, you're young.
87, so.
Yeah, people live into like 100, 150 now, I hear.
But typical, well, we probably will. But a typical thing like I would do is, on my 1 Minute Mentor is, hi, I'm Peter Thomas, your 1 Minute Mentor. Let me give you a tip that I found to be one of the most important tips of my life. Hang around with successful people. It's no more complicated than that. But look at the people that you surround with. And, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So select every person that you talk to every day, and what do you do to make them better, and what do they do to make you better? Because if you hang around people that are positive, you yourself become positive, and your journey becomes much easier. Thank you. I'm Peter Thomas, your 1 Minute Mentor. That's what it is.
So they can go on the Instagrams or your other things. They can see some of the business wisdom and health and life topics of the 1 Minute Mentor. You do videos on there that talk about your life and everything else. 1 minute. Yeah. 1 minute. And it's amazing. I used to think, who can tell stories in a minute? But it's amazing the data you can put in 1 minute when you really focus it.
Oh, it is. For example, another one is, hi, welcome to 1 Minute Mentor. Today I'm going to talk about minutes matter. Minutes are important, and when you need to make up your MITs every day, most important things. The first thing you got to do in the morning when you get up, well, actually, as you get doing this, you do it the night before. Make out a list of the things that you want to get accomplished tomorrow, and make that list up the day before so you know exactly what you're going to do tomorrow. The better you can get at that, the more efficient you will be. That's it.
I love that. Years ago, I'd heard, I forget the great radio host who kind of seeded a lot of entrepreneurism and positive thinking. But he told the story of how U.S. Steel had somebody do that. A consultant had gone into the CEO and said, you want to hire me? And he's like, no, we're not hiring consultants right now. He goes, but I do have a problem. I never can get anything achieved every day. I'm just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so the consultant went home and thought about it and came up with this thing where you do that. What would you call it? The MIT?
Yeah. Most important things. MITs.
Most important things. And he went back to the CEO and he says, every day, the night before you go to bed, list the top 5 or 6 things that you need to do in order of importance. And then when you come in during the day, focus on getting those things done, and anything you can do beyond that is just juice, right? And they claim that sort of process made U.S. Steel the biggest steel company in the world by focusing on that. So that it does work. That's an affirmation of it. I found it does work too. There's certain things I need to focus on every day, and it's so easy to get distracted, especially with social media and the internet nowadays.
Well, Chris, you're right. You said the word focus. There's a formula that I use for everything that I do, and it's got 3 words: clarity, focus, execution. So that finishes it off. So if you're looking at doing something, First, get clarity. Do you really want to do it? Like, let's say you're thinking, I want to go to Africa. I haven't been in Africa, my whole life. I got to go to Africa. So you say, okay, get clarity. How much does it cost to go to Africa? When's the weather good that you go to Africa? What do you mean Africa? Where do you want to go in Africa? You want to see an elephant, or what are you going to do in Africa? Clarity. Because a lot of times people they miss clarity, focus and execute. They have no clarity. So clarity is really critically important. Then you focus. Okay. Now I got to book the trip. Not yet. That's not yet. That's execution. But I got to get ready. What else do I need to know? Have I got the money? Cost $14,000 to go down. Okay. Have I got $14,000? My $28,000. So get all that stuff, and then you execute. And the execution is easy. That's the easiest part.
I plan. What are the other questions I had for you? What to do with it here? What role has failure played in your success? A lot of people don't realize that aspiring entrepreneurs, you're going to deal with a lot of failure.
First of all, Chris, I tell you about, I don't think you fail. You just don't make it all the way to success. You've got different degrees of success. So if you start at 0, and let's say success is 10, 2 is better than 0. So you got to 2 before you didn't make it. Like I don't look at not hitting a goal as failing I failed just at that one little thing. That's a little wee part of something. So I don't have the mental hang up of failing. Like I didn't succeed in everything I've ever gone to do, but I've sure succeeded in the important things. And don't look at failure in some things as baggage and heavy and, oh my God, I lost my self-worth. People get much too serious about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
So as a young man at 86, how do you stay vibrant, excited, and energetic about life, what's going on, and your focus, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, I tell you a theory that I have. So there's a story about this guy lived up in an office building near the waterfront. He looked down from his office building. He'd look down onto the waterfront, and he'd see a guy standing there, looking out across the water. So he looked down. Next day, guy standing there again. Next day, he's still standing there. A year goes by. He's still standing there. 20 years go by, and the guy's every day comes out there. Finally, after 20 years, the guy can't stand it. He walks downstairs. He goes to the waterfront. He says, "Excuse me, sir. I've been watching you for 20 years, looking out over the ocean, and then you just walk away. What are you doing? What are you looking for?" He said, "I'm waiting for my boat to come in." He said, "Well, did you send any out?" So that's I send boats out every day. At least 5.
Waiting for my boat to come in. And a lot of people do that. They don't realize that they like you say, they are the proponents of that, so they have to do something to get the boat to come in.
Yeah, they wait for the boat to come in.
You might want to wave to the boat as it's, hey, where am I supposed to dock? Hey, over here. This is, I've been waiting for you for 20 years.
Yeah, just keep waiting, but you got to activate it.
Send lots of boats out, and then they come back with gold or whatever.
That's right.
Gold bullion, like the stories that you read of pirates when I was a kid. Final thoughts as we go out, Peter, to pick up your book, utilize your services, et cetera, how they can reach out to you and take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, the one last tip that I have too is try and live in 24-hour compartments. In days like we're doing right now, it's crazy. You can't keep up with what's going on. It's impossible. So you shouldn't try. And I actually tried a news fast. I did a news fast. And I even had to take off my Apple Watch because you get these breaking news comes on your Apple Watch. A news fast is a good thing to try, but that won't last long. You want to know what's going on, but go on 24. Think tomorrow, today, right now, we're talking, Chris. This is the most important day of our lives. What you do today, the rest of today, and tonight, just think of it as the most important. Forget tomorrow. Don't even think about it right now. Think about today, and so that will make today as the best day of your life. And that's what you got to do. Think in day-tight compartments. 24 hours is far enough ahead right now.
And staying present. That's probably the real function of that, right? Being
you
present.
You said that very well. Stay present.
Yeah. One of the problems I had is I have ADHD and OCD. So it's very easy. I can be working on any project and I can go squirrel. And suddenly, I'm fixing the car.
Yep.
And it's really bad. And so I constantly have to be focused on being present and managing it.
Yeah.
And it's, I'll get this thing like, hey, you should go check on the TV. And you're like, no, I know what you're up to, Mr. ADHD, and we're not playing your game today. But having that sort of focus and being in the present, there's some people that waste whole days thinking about the past, worrying about the future.
Right.
The only thing you can change is now, right?
That's right. That's right.
So people can take advantage of you giving back on your Instagram and other places. Give us your .coms as we go out, and we'll wrap the show.
Okay. It's just Thomas Pride. The website is thomaspride.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think then my LifePilot is lifepilot.org.
Mm-hmm.
Lifepilot.org, because it's a charitable organization.
Mm-hmm.
And the 1 Minute Mentor is on whatever program you want to watch on. Instagram is the most used one.
Mm-hmm.
But we're on LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube and Facebook.
You've got 234,000 followers over there on the Insta, as the kids call it.
Yeah.
Good for you. It's good advice. We need positive, uplifting things, and we need more entrepreneurs, especially with the age of AI. So thank you very much, Peter, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed meeting you, Chris. Thank you very much.
I enjoy meeting you as well. I've just been, the stories and everything else that you have and the life journey that you have are just awesome. I can't wait for the next 86 years to see what you do with it.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye for now.
And thanks for us for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. He's got about, I think, 4 or 5 books. Is that it, Peter?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Peter H. Thomas, Be Great, The 5 Foundations of Extraordinary Life in Business and Beyond, out October 9th, 2009. Be good to each other, folks. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. Brain farted there.